unfolds with Thomas Lawrence, the Dean of the College of Cardinals, arriving after learning about the Pope's passing. He soon encounters Cardinal Bellini, who expresses a desire for the late Pope's chess set, reminiscing about their games together. Thomas inquires who usually won, and Bellini confesses he wasn't particularly good at chess. Curious about the circumstances of the Pope's death, Thomas asks Bellini, who explains it was due to a heart attack. They had noticed warning signs but were concerned that any leaks might lead to rumors about the Pope's resignation. Thomas then seeks information from the Pope's close confidant, as they need to prepare a comprehensive statement. Wozniak explains he discovered the body and immediately summoned the Pope's doctor. He would have informed Thomas sooner, but Tremblay advised waiting until all details, including medical records, were gathered. They debate whether to disclose the Pope's full schedule for that day. Tremblay argues against it, fearing it could imply they overburdened a frail, elderly man. However, another suggests it might highlight the immense responsibility carried by someone of his age. Thomas is subsequently informed that he now has the duty of leading the conclave. 3 weeks later, on the eve of the conclave, Thomas is busy making sure everything is in place for the big event. He is reminded of the importance of a final check on the glass to prevent any eavesdropping via vibrations. Thomas hopes no one will feel claustrophobic in the closed environment. He wonders if they'll complete the preparations on time, but is reassured that they will work through the night if needed. Archbishop Wozniak wishes to have a word with Thomas, but Thomas is occupied with the imminent arrival of the Cardinals. He is informed of Wozniak's concern, and Thomas promises to meet him after his initial engagements with the Cardinals. As the windows are sealed and the Cardinals begin to arrive, the atmosphere grows tense. Cardinal Bellini is among the first to arrive, and Thomas welcomes him. Bellini asks if Thomas has seen the newspapers that speculate about him being a top contender. Thomas acknowledges the reports and agrees, though Bellini expresses no interest in the position. When Tedesco arrives, Thomas inquires about his health. Tedesco responds that at their age, complete health is a rarity. Later, Thomas confides in Bellini his desire to step down from his role as dean and join a religious order. Bellini informs him that his resignation is not accepted, explaining that some are destined to lead, others to manage, and it seems Thomas is meant to manage. Bellini also reveals that even the Pope had his doubts, leaving Thomas surprised. Bellini clarifies that these doubts were about the Church, not about faith in God. As Thomas approaches Father Wozniak, he finds him kneeling, ready to confess. However, Thomas urges him to delay, as time is pressing. Unable to hold back, Wozniak admits that he had previously mentioned how Tremblay was the last to meet with the Pope, who had, during their encounter, dismissed him. Thomas questions why this information was withheld, and Wozniak explains that he had promised Tremblay to keep it a secret, not believing Tremblay would become the next Pope. Yet, with recent rumors, he feels compelled to reveal the truth. When Thomas inquires about the reason for Tremblay's dismissal and whether Wozniak witnessed it, Wozniak admits he wasn't present but that the Pope later assured him the reasons would become evident. Subsequently, everyone is taken aback by the announcement of a new cardinal. There are suspicions about his authenticity, but he shows his letter of appointment. Archbishop Benitez clarifies that the late Pope had secretly elevated him to cardinal and dispatched him to Kabul, where his identity remained concealed for safety. Thomas introduces Benitez to the group, acknowledging that the reasons for his secretive appointment are known only to God and the late Pope. He invites Benitez to pray, and the new cardinal leaves a lasting impression on everyone, especially the sisters, by including them in his prayers. Later, the liberals gather to discuss Bellini's stance in the upcoming election. Bellini shares his convictions. He is against reverting to Latin, advocates for the support of diverse faiths, and believes that women should have more prominent roles. His colleagues disagree with him on the last point, but Bellini remains firm, stating that he wishes to win based on his genuine beliefs. He asserts that he represents everything that the traditionalist Tedesco does not. After Bellini departs, his supporters propose launching a campaign in his favor, but Thomas reminds them that this is not what Bellini wants. They counter by arguing that those who actively seek power can often pose a threat. Thomas then reaches out to Tremblay to inquire about the alleged forced resignation, but Tremblay refutes the claim, stating he has a witness to support his position. He questions Wozniak's reliability, suggesting that his increasing alcohol consumption might impair his judgment or that he is still struggling with the impact of the Pope's death. When Thomas probes about Tremblay's meeting with the Pope, Tremblay declines to provide details, insisting it was a private matter. In response, Thomas delivers a powerful speech emphasizing the importance of unity, tolerance, and humility within the Church. He quotes St. Paul on the necessity of mutual respect, highlighting how diversity in perspective strengthens the Church. He cautions that certainty can be perilous, as it erodes unity and tolerance, leaving no space for mystery or genuine faith. Thomas underscores that faith is nurtured through doubt rather than certainty and prays for a humble pope who acknowledges sins, seeks forgiveness, and continually strives to move forward. He then asks one of his colleagues to question the witness about the last encounter between the late pope and Tremblay. Shortly after, the first round of voting commences, with clear instructions provided on how to cast votes. The results reveal that Cardinal Adeyemi received 21 votes, followed by Tedesco with 18, Bellini with 17, Tremblay with 16, Thomas with 5, and the remaining cardinals each garnered a single vote. After wrapping up the first round, they agreed to reconvene the following day. During the conclave, Thomas, despite the ban on outside communication, starts gathering intel on the leading candidates. He justifies his actions as an independent investigation aimed at safeguarding the Church. He delves into Cardinal Benitez's background, uncovering details about his previous missions and a health issue. Thomas enlists Monsignor to dig deeper, believing this information could influence the election. When Monsignor interrogates the witness about Tremblay's eligibility, the witness confirms there are no obstacles preventing Cardinal Tremblay from ascending to the papacy. However, when he mentions having seen a document and attempts to disclose further details, he states that the report has been retracted. Thomas's associates are disheartened by Bellini's third-place finish, as they had hoped for his victory. He reassures them that he has limited influence in his current role and that additional rounds of voting are still ahead. In a conversation with Benitez, the latter mentions that he voted for Thomas. However, Thomas reveals his intention to step down as dean after the conclave. When Benitez inquires whether this decision stems from a crisis of faith, Thomas admits he feels unworthy of the papal position. Thomas later speaks with Bellini, who's upset with him for not offering stronger support. Bellini warns that if neither of them wins, Tedesco might reverse progress made over the last 60 years. Thomas notes that Adeyemi is also a viable candidate, though Bellini insists Adeyemi's stance against homosexuality is a problem and urges Thomas to choose a side. Bellini suspects Thomas wants the position himself, though Thomas denies it. In the second ballot, Tedesco leads with 35 votes, Adeyemi follows with 34, Tremblay has 16, Bellini has 18, Thomas has 9, and Benitez has only 2. Another round of voting sees Adeyemi with 52 votes, Tedesco with 30, Tremblay with 10, Bellini with 9, Thomas with 5, and Benitez with 4. As voting continues in the conclave, a scene unfolds in the cafeteria when one of the nuns causes a commotion with Cardinal Adeyemi. Thomas goes to investigate, and Sister Agnes tries to stop him from speaking to another nun, but he insists it's important. Thomas then questions the nun, who reveals that she had a child with Cardinal Adeyemi when she was 19 and he was 30. Thomas confronts Adeyemi, who initially claims that there is a conspiracy against him, suggesting that she was brought in to undermine his campaign. He acknowledges that their past actions occurred when they were younger, although Thomas points out that only she was young. Adeyemi was already 30 at the time. Thomas states that he will keep quiet, but Adeyemi believes he still has a chance. However, Thomas cannot provide him with false hope and explains that the rumors surrounding him are causing significant fear and will spread quickly. He expresses his regret over the situation, acknowledging that while Adeyemi is a decent man, he is not suited to become pope and must start anew. As the fifth round of voting commences, the rumors about Adeyemi have circulated widely, making it difficult for him to secure votes, while Cardinal Tremblay leads with 40 votes. With no candidate achieving the necessary two-thirds majority, they agreed to reconvene the following day to continue the voting process. Meanwhile, Thomas discovers that Cardinal Benitez had a medical appointment in Switzerland that was cancelled. Bellini approaches Thomas, stating that since victory seems unlikely, they should consider whom to support moving forward, proposing that they back Tremblay. Later, Thomas speaks with Cardinal Benitez and requests that he stop voting for him and instead encourage his supporters to cast their votes for Tremblay. However, Benitez refuses, explaining that he cannot support Tremblay as he does not view him as the most deserving candidate for the papacy. Thomas asserts that he doesn't desire the position either, but Benitez insists that he still has the potential to be elected. Later, Thomas meets with Sister Agnes to inquire about the sister who was brought to the facility. Sister Agnes informs him that she cannot share any information and advises him to reach out to the office in France. Thomas explains that he is unable to do so due to conclave regulations. She then tells him he must be patient. Thomas opens up to her, revealing that he had wanted to resign, but the Holy Pope had not permitted it. Perhaps the Pope foresaw his own demise and wanted Thomas to handle this matter personally. Moved by his words, Sister Agnes turns on her computer and exits, allowing Thomas access to the records. Thomas then confronts Tremblay, accusing him of attempting to disrupt the proceedings and urging him to withdraw his candidacy. Tremblay refutes the accusations, claiming he only carried out the directives of the late Holy Father. He insinuates that Thomas might be acting out of ambition. Thomas visits the late Pope's sealed quarters and discovers documents implicating Tremblay in simony. He presents these to Bellini, encouraging him to run as a candidate. However, Bellini refuses, advising that exposing the documents would only benefit Tedesco. Frustrated, Thomas accuses Bellini of being swayed by the promise of a comfortable position from Tremblay. He expresses regret over having supported Bellini with his vote 5 times, admitting it was an error in judgment. He then circulates the report among the group, detailing how the late Pope had requested Tremblay's resignation. This revelation ignites a heated discussion, with everyone questioning how Thomas managed to breach the confidentiality and access the documents. Sister Agnes steps in to clarify that Thomas had entered the chambers solely to investigate the circumstances surrounding the nun's arrival, disclosing that it was at Tremblay's behest. Tremblay maintains his innocence, reiterating that the Holy Father instructed him to act in that manner. Adeyemi accuses him of betrayal, leading others to doubt Tremblay's qualifications. Feeling remorseful about their earlier disagreement, Bellini approaches Thomas to apologize, acknowledging his mistakes. He admits that despite their age, he struggled to manage his ambition and concedes that Thomas would make a far better leader than himself. He asks Thomas what name he would prefer if he were to become Pope, to which Thomas responds he would choose the name John. Later, during the voting process, an explosion rocks the venue. Thomas informs the group that there have been blasts in multiple locations, resulting in over 50 fatalities. Tedesco expresses his anger, stating that this is the outcome of the relativism doctrine favored by liberals. He criticizes the tolerance shown toward Islam in their territory while facing hostility in return. He questions how long they can endure such weakness, asserting that they are at a critical juncture and need a leader who recognizes the reality of the religious conflict they face. He insists that they require a leader capable of combating the threat. In response to Tedesco's remarks, Benitez shares his experience serving in some of the most perilous regions. He argues that violence never resolves violence, only resulting in further bloodshed. He mentions that this is his first visit, and perhaps it will be his last, reflecting on how trivial the concerns of those around him have become. His heartfelt address resonates with the audience, gradually swaying them in favor of his candidacy. In the subsequent round of voting, Benitez secures a 2/3 majority and is elected as the new pope. When asked if he accepts the role, he responds affirmatively, choosing the name Innocent. Thomas feels a surge of joy at this development, but it quickly fades when Monsignor approaches him with troubling news about Benitez. Monsignor admits that he initially thought the information was trivial, but now feels compelled to share it with Thomas. He reveals that he received details from the clinic regarding Benitez's medical history. It turns out that the late Pope had financed a cancelled medical procedure for Cardinal Benitez, a laparoscopic hysterectomy. Thomas realizes that if this information were to leak, it could force Benitez to resign. Determined to confront the issue, Thomas visits Benitez and inquires about the situation. Benitez explains that he was unaware of his condition until he underwent an appendectomy, during which doctors discovered he has both male and female reproductive organs. He identifies as intersex, possessing a uterus, ovaries, and a male genitalia. He shares that he initially considered resigning and that the Pope had arranged for him to undergo surgery. However, at the last minute, he decided to retain his female organs, believing he should embrace himself as God created him. He references a previous sermon by Thomas, which deeply resonates with him. Touched by Benitez's perspective, Thomas resolves to keep Benitez's secret, prioritizing his loyalty to the late Pope over his own ambitions. He watches silently as the crowd rejoices in Benitez's election as the new Pope. There you have it. What did you think of that movie? Like and subscribe to support the channel. And share your thoughts in the comments section. Thank you for watching and see you next for more fun recaps.